the audience participation. I'm going to say a word, and you're going to raise your hand if you associate that word with good things. All right? Good word, raise your hand. The first word is renew. Raise your hand if you associate that word with good things. Okay. Innovate. Raise your hand if you associate that word with positive connotations. Change. Raise your hand if the word change is always a good thing. The word innovate comes from Latin, and it means to change or renew. And while words like renew and innovate are generally perceived as positive, change is a tricky word because we can associate it with good things like progress, which is why it is often featured during political campaigns. But we can also associate the word change with the anxious feelings we experience when faced with change, like if our parents tell us we're going to move halfway across the country during our senior year. So because change is a tricky word, innovation is a tricky word. But we can't have innovation without change.
The Social Justice Pathway's inaugural class will graduate this June. And for the last 3 years, Erin and I have been the English and history teachers in the pathway. The Social Justice Pathway is an alternative educational model. What that means is, by launching the pathway, we've experienced a lot of what the challenges and change come with innovation. And today we're going to try to share some of the insights and the solutions that we found.
So innovation does not exist in a vacuum. It is change within something or from one thing to another. Consider the educational system, for example. In the United States, it's very popular to imagine the education system as being like a machine. In his book, Future Shock, Alvin Tolfer refers to this machine as, or calls this machine, the ingenious machine, constructed by industrialism to produce the kind of adults it needed. A world in which time was to be regulated not by the cycle of the sun and the moon, but by the factory whistle and the clock. So the modern educational system is designed to produce factory-ready workers. And like any machine, it can be very difficult to make it create something it was not designed to create. And this is what Eric and I refer to as institutional rigidity. This is when the institution itself pose, not the people in it, pose unique challenges to innovation. Now, the easiest way to see this challenge at a comprehensive high school like Pali is to look at the master schedule. Now, the master schedule, made to administrators everywhere, is a giant organizational puzzle in which all of the classes are organized. To give you an idea about how complicated this is, the current master schedule at Pali has to accommodate over 500 classes across 7 periods. Yes, now, inevitably conflicts arise. And what I mean by conflicts in this instance is when 2 classes are scheduled to run in the same period and pose a problem. Now, what do I mean by problem? Well, if you're a student who wants to take both those classes, you can't, because you can't be in 2 places at once. That is a problem, and that problem is produced by institutional rigidity. It is a predicament that we found ourselves in with the social justice pathway. We're designed to run even block periods. That's 2nd period, 4th period, and 6th period. It's designed to do this so that our students don't have to miss their other classes when we're on field trips or when we have guest speakers. We also get continuity of learning when we're doing interdisciplinary things and more options for dynamic grouping. So anytime there is a class outside of the pathway scheduled 2nd period, 4th period, and 6th period that our pathway students want to take, they're faced with a very difficult decision. And this dilemma arises from institutional rigidity, because the institution itself resists innovation since it was not designed to accommodate it. So, what is the solution? to institutional rigidity? Well, we've found that you can use the personal to bend the institutional. That is, you can use social capital in order to design a patch. While you can't overhaul the machine in the short term, you can hack it in order to be able to achieve your goals. This social capital is something that Eric and I have discovered has been very helpful in resolving these conflicts. When journalism was scheduled for the same periods as our pathway, our students went to their teachers. In the end, it was not the master's schedule that provided a solution. It was the teamwork between these teachers and students. Out of that emerged the independent/eighth period workaround. Innovation isn't just about coming up with new ideas. It's also figuring out how to make existing things work. And in this way, it sounds corny, but mindset goes a long way. It sounds weird, but the current educational machine at one time was considered incredibly innovative. Knowing that the machine hasn't always looked this way, nor must it always look this way, is an important first step in addressing institutional rigidity.
My high school had a great auto shop teacher, Mr. Smart. And Mr. Smart had a saying. I even think it was written on his wall. It was almost a mantra. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. For auto shop, it worked out really well. It enabled students, my friends, to take on projects that they could complete. Bring bad cars back to good, or at least a little bit better. It didn't, however, enable my friends to create the hot rods that they were looking to. So some of these innovators managed to break some things. Now a little bit about cars. The cars that I drove to high school and my friends drove to high school had a lot of body roll. And what body roll means is you take corners fast, you lose control. Now one solution for this problem is to slow down. Another solution is not to slow down and to figure out a way to build a better machine. Now that solution for us, even though we didn't invent it, is called the anti-sway bar. And what it does is just help keep both wheels on the ground, which makes it easier for the cars to take those fast spins. Now, I'm not saying that we should never slow down. Sometimes slowing down is exactly what you need to do to focus on, is this what we want to be doing? Are we getting what we intended from this? And another time, we need to spin out. We need to lose control so that we can then look at what it is that we're trying to do and build a better machine. I'm going to cheat. This machine that Erin spoke of, it actually is not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And if you look at the comprehensive high school like we have here at Palo, it's amazing that we're able to get through so much stuff. We're able to achieve such high levels. Just look at our test scores and our college admissions. Our habits of learning enable us to do this. And those same habits also bring about results that maybe are not optimal, meaning that we're not learning. If you look at the research about cramming, you know that that's not an optimal outcome, that you're not going to remember what's going on. Habits are hard to change. They're ingrained, they're almost automatic. But do not despair. Our habits can change, must change. It's just not easy. There it is. Innovation in education is about changing habits of learning. How can we foster learning How can we foster innovation in education? First, recognize that it's not for everyone. The comprehensive high school works well. And if non-traditional makes you feel a little queasy, then don't choose a pathway. School ain't broke for you. Second thing is that innovation won't happen in isolation. Yes, change starts with a few nuts, but even John had Wozniak. Change cannot happen without support and loyal followers. And third, get ready to fail, to stumble, and to keep going. Those loyal followers are really helpful with that part. And we have to watch out for some pitfalls. I call it the overemphasis of measured dimensions. Schools love data. Sometimes the data starts to drive us towards any means necessary. Denise Pope calls it doing school. Erin and I call it point mining. An over-focus on how much is this worth before I actually try to figure out what it is that I'm doing. And what do we miss with this focus on that measured dimension? Well, first, we often overlook what's called marginal improvement. Someone that moves from doing nothing to doing poor work has made a huge improvement, and it needs to be encouraged. And what about what's not measured? That bossy group leader that you help become less bossy and a better leader? Being kind? Being open to new ideas and new perspectives? Second is, I'm going to call it helicoptering. Yeah, I just said it. Helicoptering. Now, it is that traditional helicoptering parent that we've heard so much about. Someone who's constantly looking and updating on how you're doing. But it also includes that student perspective that starts a discussion with, is this going to be good enough for an A? What we need to do is sort of let go a little bit. Create a little space for trying, failing, reiterating. And finally, FOMO. That's the fear of missing out. I also call it the buffet syndrome. You know, when you go to the buffet and it's like, oh, there's so many good things. I'm gonna have some, and I'm gonna have some, and I'm gonna have some. What we end up doing is choosing everything and doing many things actually not that well. So let's leave a few entrees off the table, off the plate, and see how we do. In the 10th grade, in the social justice pathway, we've noticed a bump. It's a time when students start to question whether or not this was a good idea. It's too hard. It's too easy. I thought we were going to learn. What it is the unwillingness to just engage, a hesitancy. Now, it's not a big deal because we're asking students to change habits of learning, and it's hard. So we just need to keep going. Luckily, the solution is simple. Get comfortable with a little bit of ambiguity. Leave a few things on the table and keep working.
Ultimately, the solution for innovation innovation roadblocks is a human solution. It's communication, humanization, exposure. When entering uncharted waters, designing the human being into the process goes a long way to resolving conflict and avoiding roadblocks in the first place. Thank you.